Who's Mike? F Mike.
He's like, fuck. I'm still an adult show.
We're still an adult show. Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Cred Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your good host, Ian.
And I'm your co-host, Brandon.
Again.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure. We want to thank you guys for joining us here at Cred Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your roles don't matter.
Yep, that's right. Your roles like a campaign your players just don't enjoy.
That's not fun for anybody.
That sounds really sad.
It does.
Yep.
You may notice Austin's not here. For those of you that joined us last week, our show got cut off due to a power outage.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because it was Austin's last day. He is moving on to bigger and better opportunities, going back to school, and hopefully expanding his career opportunities. So I want to say thank you to Austin for being on the show for well over a year. It's been a blast. He will still be part of our Plane Shifters campaign in our home game, so you can catch him there and make sure to torment him in the chat. As you can tell, Brandon is back. I just want to take a second and say thank you for coming back to talk D&D with us.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be back.
We've missed you.
I've missed you too.
There's just something about Brandon that I love. I don't know what it is. It's got to be the mustache. It's got to be. So, with that, thanks again for coming back. How about we get into it today? Our main topic today is how to design and write a Dungeons & Dragons campaign your players will love.
No.
Yeah.
Done?
Yeah, it can be. Unfortunately, not everyone can do it. I would like to take a second to say that this episode is sponsored by our product, Memorable Monsters. If you love Dungeons & Dragons and you love monster books, then you need to check out Memorable Monsters. You can find it at critacademy.com or on DriveThruRPG. We believe monsters are more than stat blocks, and when we designed Memorable Monsters, we gave them fleshed out backstories, different uses for them, whether it's a merchant, an ally, an NPC for like a servant or a quest giver. So many options, as well as ideals, bonds, and flaws. Monsters are just awesome and should have just as much information and backstory as the player characters. So consider checking that out if you're looking for an awesome, good, big, bad, or interesting NPC for your stories and campaigns. Now, all right, you guys, how do you write a D&D campaign?
With a pencil and paper.
With the DMG and a D20.
Yeah, your mic's over here.
With a DMG and a D20.
Yes, that's certainly a start. We know that everyone wants to be a dungeon master, but writing a Dungeons & Dragons campaign can really be intimidating, don't you think?
Yes.
It is a lot of work. As a longtime players and game designers, we want to share with you our tips for ensuring your adventure is fun, not just for you, not just for the players, but for everyone. So the hope is that by the end of this, you will be writing adventures that your players will be talking about for years. And if you already are one of those players and DMs that runs a campaign that's like this, please, in the comments, share with us your tips, your tricks, things you've learned over the years that we might have missed or maybe we ran out of time and didn't include.
Yep.
With that, Brandon, what is step one?
Step one is developing a campaign premise. As in, what do you want this campaign to be about? What do you want the flow around? It could be about a past war. It could be about this asteroid that has some sort of radiation that crashes into the world and it's creating some sort of effect with the creatures around the world. It could be whatever you want it to be.
Right? That's some good stuff there.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. The campaign premise is basically a summary of what it is you want to happen, right?
Yep.
We've broken this down to a few bullet points that we think will really help this. Ian, do you want to get us started off with the first one?
First and foremost, where does the campaign take place? What's the world like?
This is a big starting point, don't you think?
Yeah. You need a setting.
Yeah, there's a completely different experience between starting in Faerun versus starting in Eberron versus starting in Ravnica or the current modern era. You know, all those settings, they're locations, and they determine how the world functions around the characters. So that's really the first thing you need to design. Now, we're not saying that it has to be super huge. and we'll talk about that later. You can start small, just saying it's taking place in this setting, and start off somewhere off grid, you know? The next thing you want to touch on is what problem is present that must be solved. What is your call to action? Brandon, do you have any examples of something like that?
Yes, there's a campaign I was doing for some players a little bit ago. It was completely off the top of my head, and the primary issue was that demons were starting to take over the world.
That's cool.
That was the big issue.
That's the problem. There's demons trying to take over the world.
That's a problem.
Yes.
That's a problem that needs to be solved, and somebody needs to do it.
And it was being taken over by this super badass necromancer.
Not just a necromancer, but a badass necromancer.
They couldn't figure out who was doing it at first. Then they eventually were like, oh, that's the actual bad guy right there. He's the guy causing all this. Of course, my campaign it's gotten ideas from video games and movies all over.
Right. Have you guys seen the meme where it shows like a picture or little writings of favorite novel, favorite movie, favorite, cartoon, and then it's a guy pointing out my homebrew campaign, and it's all like going into this funnel. So the problem needs to be present. What is the call to action? Who or what is behind the problem? In your example, demons, right?
Yeah.
What is another good example, Ian, of somebody that might be behind the problem?
Why, it could be an evil wizard trying to manipulate things in his favor.
Yeah, it's simple as that. You don't need necessarily to have a super complex process in the beginning, do you?
What? Demons are taking over the world? Why? I can save you!
Sure.
I'm leaving out the part where I'm the one who opened the demon portal in the first place.
You're the cause of the problem there. So when we talk about who or what is behind, this is the big enemy, big bad enemy. Maybe it's a single person, maybe it's a group, sinister organization, cultists, what have you. Brandon, what's the next one?
Who or what is behind the problem?
We just talked about
which is the one we just talked about. Yeah,
the antagonist, right?
What is at stake if the characters don't take action?
This is huge. This is something that I feel like some DMs don't plot out in their designing of their campaign. What if the characters just don't care and don't get involved in it? What is going to happen?
Yeah. Apparently, if you're playing Final Fantasy VII, nothing.
Right? That meteor are just going to stay up there forever, right? This is interesting because when you set out a hook to follow a chain of events, one of my favorites was a volcano erupting that I ran once. The player characters didn't care. And that's okay. They didn't take that hook. So when they end up coming back through there, and during their travels, they heard about the eruption and how it devastated the land. And when they come back, what once was an area full of beautiful homes in cities is now a barren wasteland with nothing, completely destroyed. So it is altered, and their inaction altered and changed the world around them. And you need to plan on that sort of thing if the player characters aren't interested in whatever scheme you've got going on, because they're not going to always be. Ian?
I just lost some thought right now. In the fact that like my current, I think it's Tuesday now, game that I'm running. I ran Princess of the Apocalypse, but it's not the best organized book.
No, it's very sandboxy.
Well, not even that. Like there was like one example for example, like okay, we're currently ranked the temples. That's this entire chapter. All right, let me. They're in the last temple, so let me read ahead into the next section. Very opening paragraph. When you defeat yay amount of temples, here's what should be happening as this goes along. I'm like, this would be good to know in the last chapter.
You nearly broke our audacity.
That doesn't take much some days.
Right. So this basically means consequences of failure.
Yes.
The next thing you want to play is what is the deadline? What do we mean by that, Brandon?
Countdown die.
That's one way to do it.
That's what I think of.
Well, the good example you just mentioned would be the Final Fantasy thing, right?
Yep.
If you guys don't know,
deadline.
Well, that's just because that's a game, right? That's not what we're talking about. In D&D, we're talking about a deadline of an event to occur. In your example, the meteor is going to hit in a week. If they don't do anything to stop it, in a week, something's going to happen. So whether you keep track of that via a calendar or a countdown die or number of sessions, you know, however you do it, having a deadline to that event, because it can't be something that just keeps getting pushed off like in Final Fantasy VII, where it literally, you could literally farm forever till you're level 99 maxed out and everything, and the meteor still has not come.
Yep.
So is basically is how long before the problem is out of control.
Yep. Although on the Final Fantasy 13 spin-off actually does have a countdown timer for Doomsday.
Does it really?
Yes.
I don't remember. That was a pretty straightforward game and too linear.
I said one of the spin-offs.
Oh, okay.
That zombie game that takes place in the mall too.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called.
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get your daughter like this vaccine, otherwise she'll die. And you spend the entire game just like playing with toys in the mall.
That's really on point. So the last thing for this tip is the problem the players must solve must be something that they can impact. We've decided that there's going to be a problem to be solved. What impact can the players have? Obviously, the players at an early level aren't deities, so what is it they can do? If you start at level 1, maybe by the end of it they've helped gather people or gather resources or find an object that somebody of more power needs. In my mind, if you do something like the meteor idea, it's coming, it's crashing, and you're at a level 3 campaign, having the player characters actively involved and say, okay, you can't literally stop it, you don't have the power, but this wizard can, if he has these components, help him find them.
Yep.
So now they're directly tied to an event that's bigger than themselves without having to be directly tied to physically catching the damn thing falling from the sky, right?
I punched a meteor as a barbarian.
All right. What is the next tip there, Ian?
Start small.
Yes.
We often want to rush in and completely flesh out the world because it sounds like a fun thing to do, when it's really a lot of extra work and in many cases not exactly what you would call necessary. While you can plan out every single detail, it takes time, which you don't always have, and you can use that time to invest in the characters and what they are actually doing. And that's player characters for the most part.
Right.
And the reason is that the players and the characters are only interested in what's happening to them
Yes.
at this moment.
Definitely.
And I mean, sure, there's lots of small details like you might want to throw in like let's say like the 500 years war that's been going on between the nations. This information is probably left vague and fleshed out as the characters want to tend to interact more with the NPCs and monsters in their area.
Yep.
Like if you start small in scope, like with a single village or maybe even a region, then you just like expand it out slowly and fill in the gaps as you go along.
Yeah. Not only does this let you put more effort into upcoming session, but it's a lot less work on the Dungeon Master, period. Like, especially since the players aren't probably going to follow any set path that you design anyway. So why bother? I know there's a bit of back and forth when it comes to this sort of thing, because some DMs believe you have to design everything. I don't think that's necessary, because you can just do it as you go, and because of that you can give a little bit more of the power of creation and the world building to the players, because they're going to tell you what they want. They're going to say, oh, I'm interested in that pillar of smoke in the distance. I'm not interested in that pillar of smoke in the distance. And so if you just say some tribe is over here burning down, getting burned down, that's all you need. And if they follow it, great, you flesh it out after that, right?
Or they even give you help on what you need next. Like, oh, I sure hope there isn't a basilisk in this basement. Like there is now.
There wasn't. And this is something that I think is important, because we tend to want to try to deal with all of the conflicts and everything that's going on. One thing I used to write out really detailed political intrigue sign. Okay, this country's at war with this country. This person's in charge. This one stole this person's spouse or whatever. Instead, it's the Fire Nation hates everybody. The Earth Nation is kind of just secluded. The Hair Nation has been decimated. You don't, one sentence, 2 sentences, all you really need. So start small and then flesh it out as needed as the players show interest in it, right? Brandon, would you like to tell us about rule number 3?
Rule number 3 is the rule of 3. And what was that? That was having 3 hooks for your players. You should have at least 3 hooks when you start off. That way, they don't feel like they're being railroaded in certain ways.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So, by building 3 hooks that the characters can use at really any given time, it gives them a sense of freedom that they might not otherwise have if you've got what's coined as railroady, right? Where, all right, there's a pillar of smoke. All right, I don't really care about that. Well, there's a pillar of smoke. I told you I don't really care. There's a pillar of smoke. Go that way, you know. People don't like being forced. But by following the rule of 3 options right from the beginning seems to be a perfect balance to keep the players intrigued and invested without really overwhelming them and, you know, leaving them in analysis paralysis, right? Does that ever happen where you had so many options you really didn't know which one to take?
Yeah, like the campaign I was running, it wasn't rule of 3. There was a lot more. What I wanted to do was drop a job board at their inn because they didn't know what they're going to do next. They didn't know where the big bad or where to go next was. It's like, oh, there's a job board over here if you guys want to take a look. And there was a few that I threw down like, oh, this person had some belongings stolen. Could you retrieve them? Or there's this. There was one that pertained to one of the characters' backstories that was supposed to catch their attention. And there was another one for another character's backstory.
Right.
And they didn't realize that until they finished like 2 of them.
Oh no. They either they wasn't obvious or up front or they had forgot they'd written it. Because I've done that. A good example in one of the actual play I'm in, the Initiative and Intrigue. Because it was so out of what I normally use, she introduced me to a character in one of my books. And I didn't notice it at first. And then as I was playing with this character, I said, man, why is this so familiar? Why is it so... Duh, it's in my Memorable Monsters book. Like, it's one of my favorite characters. And I was super excited by that. But sometimes it's easy to miss those things. So if you are going to put hooks in front of people, and make sure they're clearly tied to... If they're tied to backstory, make sure it's clear. Tell them, oh, you know this from your, the fact you were a soldier or something. So...
Well... I know I used this example before, but I've seen times where a GM basically had like a fortune teller show up and gave a foretelling of doom to one of the players, and the player went, yeah, whatever, and walked away. or there was one time, or in that same campaign, that he had a merchant show up who wanted to invest in their settlement, but it involved basically taking our players, the player characters, away from that settlement for over a month, 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And we were like the sole defense to the village, and so all the players were like, why would we leave? Why would we leave this village undefended for this long amount of time?
You're the defenders, man. I like that.
But, like, okay, I get the idea of players take the DM gives you, but at the same time, the hooks you give the players have to make sense.
Yes, that is something that does fall apart sometimes. Honestly, I'm guilty of that still because I don't think about some stuff, or I forget. I forget a lot, even if it's written down. I can't read my chicken scratch.
Or there's like one time too where in a superhero RPG, part of my character's backstory was he's from the future, post-apocalyptic, was triggered by a guy who could give superpowers to other people. And this was part of my backstory I gave to the GM.
For all one.
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. No.
And like a few sessions later, we came across somebody who gives superpowers to other people as their ability. I'm like, I'm gonna kill that guy. and everybody's like, what? Why? I'm like, did you not read my backstory?
This is what I'm here to do.
Why are you surprised by this?
All right. Our 4th tip is players have world building power too.
Yep.
We have talked about this on the show. We have had this as DM and player tips. I'm telling you what, let your players co-create the campaign setting in the world with you.
Yep.
Leveraging their actions and choices as a way to flesh out the parts of the world that interest them. Many Dungeon Masters spend so much time and effort building parts of the worlds that the players don't give a shit about. Like, you do. I do. We understand that, right? We love things we create. You ever created something you didn't love?
Yep.
Yeah.
It happens, but okay, not what I was going for. But spending 2 hours designing and fleshing out a blacksmith and his forge doesn't really do you any good if the characters don't give a shit about the blacksmith and his story. Because the characters are the focal point of the story, they decide what is important. So let them. In this case, maybe we didn't decide to focus on the blacksmith, and they decide to take an interest in him. Well, now we say, okay, what do you want to know? Or if they ask him a question about his family, that's the stuff you then start to work on, because then you're feeding into what they want, not what you think people want. Which there is a balance there, don't get me wrong, between completely ill-prepared and just on the fly, though some people can do it on the fly really, really well. Brandon.
It's not that hard.
I don't know, man. I've seen him with like 4 words on a note card. So anyways, one of the pitfalls DMs tend to make is that if the characters don't take interest in something and they don't care about what the DM cares about, they tend to push the characters in a direction against their will. And honestly, this can lead to players angry, upset, and stressed. And we don't want to do both sides, not just the DM, but also the player, right? So when a player character takes interest in something, toss in the proverbial ball into their court. For example, if the character wants to ask around town about the location of an alchemist shop, ask them to describe the NPC they approach. You don't have to have that designed in advance, right? Not only just the physical traits such as race or outfit and hair color, but what was the NPC doing when you approached? What did you see them doing? It's okay to give this to them because not only does it put the ball in their court, but they'll remember that NPC in far greater detail because they made it.
Yep.
It gets them invested in the story. So consider this as the world building power of the players. They can help take so much weight off your shoulders as a dungeon master. And honestly, they'll remember that stuff a lot better because they're involved. So
I can just picture it now. Players walking to a magic shop. It's like, okay, what's the shop like? What do you see? What safety measures does the shopkeeper have in place for adventurers just walking in and taking their stuff?
I like that. Oh yeah, and by the way, there is a jar there with a nice golden necklace. I'm gonna swipe. Sleight of hand check. It's fake gold too, by the way. Brandon, what is the next tip we're going to discuss?
Prepared encounters.
Yes.
Yes. Making sure that you have encounters prepared specifically.
You muffle when you do this.
Is somebody got a dick in my mouth?
God, I have a comment I want to say, but I'm gonna be good.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm gonna be good.
Prepare encounters. It's having encounters prepared specifically for what's going on around the players. Like if they know that they've heard rumors of what was it, right? That rust monsters are attacking in a local area, and you decide to make an encounter. There better be rust monsters in that encounter.
Right? I know this sounds like a small thing, but just having something prepared, you don't want to have to start going through your book and scrounging for all the stuff you need to run the encounter. If you've set out a hook that says there's rust monsters, make sure you have one prepared for the hook you made. Some people don't do that. They'll throw out a hook but not have anything prepared, so you lose a half hour of game time while the DM goes, draws the map, gets the monsters, sets up the board, all that stuff. If you've got all that stuff ready to go, it takes, minutes as opposed to a ridiculous amount of time, and we've all been in that game where that happens.
Yep.
And this isn't just monsters. This is traps and little clues of lore and exploration opportunities.
I would like to point some out I just saw about Ian's stealing stuff from a shop.
Yeah.
William Washburn right there. Glyphs of warding that trigger when someone tries to run off with stolen goods. That's such a cool idea.
I'm Justin Hanlon, and I approve this message.
You steal something, try to run out, all of a sudden you just turn into a block of ice and fall over.
Right. Ian, would you like to tell us about defining the ending?
All right. Well, defining the ending, like one thing that happens is that DMs don't necessarily set an endpoint or any of the game.
Anything.
That means the story can go on indefinitely, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because stuff might just keep happening that you can work off of, but it's not necessarily a bad thing just have something there at the finish line at the end of the day. And sometimes having an arc means there's a semblance of accomplishment for the characters when they have a beginning, middle, and end to that particular adventure.
Yep.
And when you do so, keep in mind that you need to be flexible during the campaign. Deciding on an ending is one thing, but having tracks the players can follow is another. And obviously, people don't like railroading too much, but some people are kind of vocal about more than others.
Yep.
You don't always think there's going to be some on some level, but
Yep.
But there are some tables that do like it, and sometimes it's always just good to leave it open for how the players can get there, or don't be afraid to rearrange events or encounters that still allow the flow to continue. Not wasting the material you prepped. More importantly.
Yes.
And the best way to think of this, as like with the story's villain, what could change their plans, if at all, based on what the characters do?
Yeah, having that stuff written out and having exit strategies and stuff for the end of the story and the campaigns pretty important because you need to have that sense of accomplishment in progress, right? If you're fighting, you're chasing this person and it's an indefinite chase, that's not as fun as capturing him, interrogating him a little bit, and then him getting away and the chase continues. There are ways to end a story arc but still continue the story. Does that make sense?
Yep.
In my head, it makes sense. I don't know if it came out that way. So if you listen to your players during their talking and their chats, they may even give you some good ideas to pull from of kind of some directions they're going to go and that they would like to see. A popular one I have seen is, man, wouldn't it be awesome if, we found a secret door into the mansion? Okay, there's now a secret door into the mansion. That may be 3-4 sessions from now, and they may forget all about it. But I'll tell you what, if they decide to ask about it, they're like, I knew it! And that's going to be a sense of accomplishment there. But in the end, that also means that is a potential out for the boss. So if they end up fighting and the boss needs to retreat, there is now a secret path for them to get out of. And if the player didn't discover it, now they're like, damn it, I knew that. Putting a start, middle, and end, even if you're going to run a big campaign and there's small, sub-arcs maybe, it definitely gives a sense of completion and moving forward. It also gives you a great opportunity and an endpoint to try some other stuff after the fact. Hey, we finished this arc. Do you guys want to play a couple one-shots of other characters? So there's a lot good in that. Brandon, do you have anything to add to that?
No, for game endings?
Yeah.
Not really, no. I mean, I got an ending for my campaign. I don't think I'm ever going to get to it, but it's just such an awesome thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Would you like to tell us about number 7, request next steps? Just read that.
At the end of each session, you can ensure your writing and preparations are in line with what the characters will do when they return to the table. How do we do this, you ask? How do we prepare the unpredictable? Easy. We ask the players.
Yeah, once again, let's revisit the rule of 3. By the end of the session, the players kind of have an idea what direction they're going to want to follow moving forward. So ask them, what is it? And use that as a basis for your next rule of 3 hooks, as well as your prepared encounters. Now that they have told you what they want to do, you can easily develop options and story encounters based around the actions they've said they're going to do. Imagine how much easier it is, instead of guessing what the players are going to do, actually doing, just knowing. Like, I know it seems like a real mind F, but it really makes a huge difference. This means that building the encounters and events that they want, not only what you think they want. Thus, the story will be captivating and engaging for the players and characters. God, I love that. So, number 8 is lean into tropes. Dear God, you guys. There is a reason that many adventures start in a tavern, or dwarves are expected to get tanked whenever they visit a tavern. These are classic tropes that have been part of storytelling for generations. Now, the reason they've been around for so long is because they work. Players, readers, moviegoers alike love tropes. Can they be overdone? Sure. Anything done too much is overdone. But it doesn't mean you can't have them in your stories and campaigns. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah.
Give an example, maybe?
Like how the brutish Goliath barbarian is always looking for a challenge.
Yeah, it's a good one. Likewise, the wizards are expected to spend most of their time, locked away in towers studying ancient tomes and scrolls. Right?
Or see druids out picking herbs.
It's okay to lean into these tropes. They are tropes for a reason.
Yep.
It's a fact that the players like when things meet their expectation, period. So give them what they expect. But...
Yep.
Would you like to take number 9, Ian?
You don't always have to lean in the tropes, though. Just because, yes, tropes exist, and yes, they're enjoyable, and I can't deny the fact that I enjoy them sometimes myself, but throwing a little curveball in there can keep things fresh and interesting. Like, a wizard doesn't have to, dump all their time in their studies, for example, or a dwarf doesn't have to constantly drinking beer all the time, although I get to run a dwarf that doesn't do that, but hey.
Nothing wrong with that.
And people do like misdirection, plot twist, emotional roller coasters for expectations to be woven into the stories. Just try to do it sparingly because you don't want to get in the habit of fooling your players by breaking expectations. And let's be real here, I don't think people like being jerked around too much. So
yeah, I agree. Players love misdirection, plot twists, and emotional roller coaster of expectations in their stories and campaigns. Just do it sparingly, as he mentioned. If you don't want to get in that constant habit of basically trying to trick your players and breaking their expectations, that's too much.
Yeah. Keep the game fun and fresh by not always meeting the player's expectations. Just do it rarely. It makes the broken trope that much more interesting, and a fine example of this is I was following tropes throughout my campaign, and the players met a barbarian, Goliath barbarian, and they expected I want a challenge, I want to break some shit. Instead, they end up, he invites them to his shop. Turns out he's a master seamstress.
Awesome.
He sits there in a big old apron, and he sews dresses and stuff.
I love that. That's so great. So,
now think about the meme of a necromancer wearing like a cloak made of like a human faces, and the caption was like, "I told you that seamstress skill would be useful."
What the fuck?
Jesus. And last but certainly not least, steal shamelessly.
Yep.
I want to put this out here. Do not steal stuff to publish or anything like that.
Nope.
That's bad.
Yep, don't do that.
I'm a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson, arguably one of the best fantasy authors of our time. As a writer, it was not a surprise that I would attend one of his classes. If you can watch him online, I highly recommend it if you're looking at writing. During which he does indicate that you should steal shamelessly from other works of art that you love. It's worth noting, he clearly mentions not to steal word for word, but instead to take the general idea or framework and apply it in a new way. A way that helps you leverage what you love about the story and share it through your own words. Oops, sorry. A great example of this is one of my favorite campaigns I ever ran was in 4th edition. Yeah, I know, everyone hates 4th edition, whatever.
I don't.
The story was based on the Will Smith movie, Men in Black. Instead of aliens being on the planet secretly and an secret agency keeping them protected, while at the same time secretly, capturing and ending deadly threats, the characters became part of a secret sect of guardians and emissaries of the planet. Refugees from other planes of existence were trying to leave terrible situations, but because they look like monstrous creatures, mundane commoners would never really accept them, right? So the sect was created to help provide housing, lifestyles, and comfortable living situations on the material realm. All the while keeping it secret. Modify memory, anyone? This is the same story, just told in a different way. The story was great, leading to a variety of different play styles and hunting down and invading hostile creatures, collecting rare and powerful alien artifacts. Many amazing stories that have been told, very few which are unique. Looking at you, Disney.
Yep.
You know, all of Disney's stories were not started by Disney, just so you know.
Yeah.
Most of them. No.
And I think it said there's, at most 7 types of stories?
Yes. There's
Yep.
a core
variation of
core
them.
5 to 10 story archetypes, and they all follow a certain kind of outline. Anyways, so the way we present the story and the setting that it takes place in makes it unique, without needing to delve in the complexities of being a master author like Brandon Sanderson.
Yep. But point being, steal shamelessly, steal often. And obviously, this can go beyond adventures, which can also include magical items, plot, and just reflavoring alone can make this go a really long way. I mean,
That's for me. Yeah.
I mean, how many times have I pitched the idea of, let's make some Berserker armor?
Yes.
Which, of course, is from Berserk.
Yes. I love Berserk armor. I love Berserk sword too, or Guts' sword. Berserk, that's not his name. Also, if you are interested in trying Brandon Sanderson's work, I highly recommend the Storyline Archives. You can get a Audible bundle, not an Audible, a 3-piece book bundle at our blog at critacademy.com for this episode. There's a link there that'll the series will just take you and knock you on your ass. I promise. You will never fall in love with a character quite like Kaladin Stormblessed. I promise you won't regret it. Now, Life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination, my friends. With that, is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we move on to our honor tips and tricks?
Oh.
I definitely have to say though that like yes, it's definitely okay to borrow elements from like a franchise story or whatever, but
Change the names.
yeah, definitely change the name because like
Avatar, the Last Lancer. I'm looking at you.
there's one Starfinder campaign for example I was definitely enjoying, but I started to notice very quickly. Like, wait a second, these guys are basically like the Tau from the Tau faction. Because they did not change it of like the proper nouns or the names.
Ah, so it was very clear where it came from. Yeah.
I even said it out loud, which I think was a huge mistake because it seemed like the campaign ended 1 or 2 sessions after that, so I don't know.
You broke it.
So I don't know if I broke it.
He's like, shit, he's on to me. I'm done.
But you get the idea.
I do.
It's like, wait a second.
All right. With that, we will. That'll do it for our main topic. Before we move on to our unearthed tips and tricks, I'd like to take a moment to give you a message from our sponsor, us. We highly recommend checking out Whitaker's Well of Magic items. It is available now in digital and softcover. It's an easy D100 tables to randomly generate magic items for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. You head over to Crit Academy and check it out. I love it. You can roll your dice and you can, if you like loot games like Diablo or
Diablo.
yeah, Diablo. Path of Exile,
Destiny.
Destiny.
That's a loot game.
Yeah, you can roll on this and then generate different using an affix and suffix system. So they come out with some dope ass names as well. It's currently 5-star rated on Amazon. Anyways, moving on to our unearthed tips and tricks.
Yep, I did some link.
And now, what you've all been waiting for. Our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment, where we bring you new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
All right, Brandon, would you like to tell us about our character concept?
Character concept today is from the Beverage Tea. I believe he's a patron, right?
He is.
He is on our Discord. He actually posts a lot, and we actually thank him for that. We love chatting with people.
Yeah, character concept. His name is Patroi, the Petulant Puppeteer.
I love this.
Patroi looks odd. His hair must have been cut by a blind barber with a bad attitude. His tailor must be seeking revenge for some wrong to have outfitted poor Patroi with mismatched patches of poorly cured leather and raggedy wool. His eyes are 2 different colors, and his nose is as crooked as a poorly drawn letter S. So his nose looks like Trogdor. His wry smile appears as a grimacing scowl, but all of these match his foul personality and even fouler attitude.
So it sounds like he may have gotten people to have them get punched in the face once or twice. Or a dozen.
That's funny.
I can see a reason why. Patroi is proud. He would like to be called Proud Patroi, but he isn't. He would like to be called Puppeteer Patroi, but he isn't. He thinks of himself as the epitome of a puppeteering genius. He spends every waking moment making his crude puppets from socks, shoes, and felled enemies' decapitated heads.
What is that? What is that NPC that that wrestler who used to put a sock on his hand and like grab people by the mouth and never washed it? What is that? The man.
I don't know.
Mankind?
Mankind, yes, Mr. Sacco.
He thinks of dialogue and settings, but he is extremely poor at his craft. His puppets' mouths don't move, their limbs fall off mid-performance, and his stories and dialogues are childish and unfunny. And and if he even suspects that someone does not enjoy his performance, out come the words of daggers and phrases of venom. Just a wrongly arched eyebrow will cause Patroi to flip the F out, and cast vicious mockery or Tasha's hideous laughter.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Let's take a look at his history, huh? Patroi has always been a goof. He found solace. He found solace from bullies in his room as he reenacted his fantasies of getting revenge with his homemade puppets. Wow, that's pretty dark. He spent hours and hours doing this without ever improving his technique. 10,000 hours. Improving? I'm dyslexic. Improving his technique, yeah. 10,000 hours on making crappy puppets that fall apart. Another 10,000 hours devising the same revenge plays with the same shallow characters and the same schoolyard setting. Well, what's his motivation? Patroi seeks two things: an appreciative audience and fame and recognition as the world's greatest puppeteer. He wants nothing more than to be praised for his craft that he has dedicated his life to.
I don't think he's going to succeed.
I don't think he's going to do well there. Jesus. This is a savage character, and I love it. Oh my gosh.
I am the best at what I do. No, you're not. Shut up!
I think it's hilarious. Just like he's talking out through his puppet and it's just falling apart halfway through the conversation. Like meeting with like a noble king and it's just jumping in there with some. Now I'm thinking Walter from Jeff Dunham, right? I don't give a damn.
Did you get the whole idea behind the vicious mockery and Touch City's laughter? If you don't laugh, he's gonna make you laugh.
Oh shit, that's dope.
Yeah.
So that's why he thinks he's successful, right? He's forcing people to laugh. All right. I really like this this character. Thank you so much, the Beverage Tea, for this very interesting character. I will make sure to be tossing him into a campaign at some point.
Yep.
So, moving on to our monster variant.
Yeah.
We have the Spell Sword Illusionist. I am getting really, I'm having a lot of fun making some of these characters, I'm going to be honest. So in order to build this
is one of your monsters.
They're all my monsters. I build them all.
No, I thought we got some of them from like fans.
No, I build all of them now. Anyway, so let's talk about the Spell Sword Illusionist. So you're going to start with the Githyanki Knight. Githyanki, I don't give a damn. Lost features, you're going to lose the Silver Greatsword and the spell list, all right? So we're going to give it some new features. The War Magic feature, so when the Spell Sword uses its action to cast a cantrip or first level spell, it can make an attack with its Greatsword as a bonus action. That's pretty simple, right? We're going to give it the School of Illusion. So whenever the Spell Sword casts Minor Illusion, it can create both a sound and an image with a single cast of the spell.
Nice.
Then we're going to give it Malleable Illusions. When the Spell Sword casts an illusion spell that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, it can use its action to change the nature of the illusion, keeping the spell's normal parameters for the illusion, provided that it can see the illusion. Basically, it can alter and change them on the fly.
Yep.
So it can make someone see a muskrat, and that muskrat just suddenly turns into demonic looking.
Yes. So,
okay.
The new spell list is going to be at will. We're going to give him Disguise Self. He's never going to be the same person twice, which is just fun. Minor Illusion, Illusory Script, which is really fun. And then 3 a day each, he can cast Arcanus Magic Aura, which basically lets them change the perceived nature of a magic's power. So somebody that casts Divine Sense, for instance, might think it's evil, but it might not be, and great for redirecting very lawful, crazy paladins. Mirror Image, of course, making clones of himself. Silent Image, Phantom Steed for getting away quickly. And of course, 1 a day each, Seeming and Fear. Now, we're not done. We got rid of his greatsword, or his silver sword, but we're gonna give him something better. The dreaded Illusory Greatsword. That has a +9 to hit on a melee 5-foot reach. Target takes 2d6 plus 6 slashing damage. And 3d6 psychic damage. That's right, all you barbarian assholes. This weapon is a magic attack. If the target is a creature, on a critical hit, the Illusory Greatsword taps into the nightmares of the creature and creates an illusory manifestation of its deepest fears, visible only to the creature. The target must make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target becomes frightened for up to 1 minute. The target can make a Wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on a success. Woo! That's a long-winded one. What do you guys think?
This guy's a beast.
He's a beast!
So, the dreaded Illusory Greatsword there.
Yes.
When it taps in and it gets into the nightmares of what they are, and it shows their fears, do they become afraid of the illusion? or the spell sword?
The spell sword.
Okay.
I would say that is super clear, not, but I'm pretty sure that I ripped that right from the fear spell. So, and that's how it's worded, I think. I'd have to double check unless it was copied wrong. But yeah, so that's part of this is meant to be an illusionist who is terrifying. His blade strikes quite literally fear into those it touches. Of course, only on a crit, because, you know, making him have it regularly would just be bad. If you don't know, I think Seeming is the spell that lets you change the appearance of multiple creatures at once, which is great for getting into the they did it challenge. Hiring a group of adventure or a group of thugs and then transforming them with Seeming into a group of adventurers that looks exactly like our player characters just sounds perfect. Because who doesn't love that? Who doesn't like being
An imposter?
yes. So do you guys have anything else on this?
Get your tasks done.
Yeah. I mean,
The Illusionist script, I've never heard that spell, so I just looked that up. And I'm trying to determine how that would...
it's writing, right? It's fake writing.
Yeah, how it will come in handy for him.
Misdirection. Leaving around clues of who did it or who he says did it. Like in my mind, I'm imagining like leaving a calling card and blaming somebody. Like I am like, do you ever have a character that's got a nickname, for instance?
Nope.
Thorg was here. No. It basically allows you to leave magic writing places. Really great for signing your name or pulling off a Zorro type thing. At least that's what I've always envisioned. So, but it's definitely really cool. The Phantom Steed was a nice toss in for, you know, escape.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
All right, Austin or Ian. I miss Austin already.
Poor Austin.
Our encounter is the debt to be paid.
Ooh, it's a good one.
Anakis Dishchord, a noble tiefling, recently hired William Ashton, a spellsword illusionist. Wow, I wonder where that came from. as a guard. Anakis needs somebody strong and reliable in case anything went sideways during an underground deal with the Shadowfang's thieving guild. Well, that's your first problem right there. During the negotiations, she was blackmailed by the Shadowfangs.
Imagine that.
Their demand would leave her bankrupt. And she demanded that William attack and destroy the manipulating scum. But he refused. He said that his contract only obligates him to protect her from physical harm. Additional support would cost extra. Overhearing this, the Shadowfangs smirk and says she gathered the money or her secret will be plastered all over the town and region.
Ooh.
After the meeting, Anakis is furious with William and refuses to pay him. She believes he broke his contract by not aiding her. Of course, this isn't true and he says that she pay. According to Anakis, after refusing not to pay William, he left her a warning. Pay me or I'll take it out of your livelihood. He threatened to snatch one of her children and sell them to slavery to pay the debt. Anakis has hired the characters to protect her young children from the thug who is due to arrive and snatch the child soon. Anakis doesn't know of William's master's skills with illusions, and he will use his skills to the fullest to gather his compensation.
Oh, shit.
Anakis, however, is lying, because at no point did William ever threaten her children just to get his compensation for the job. Thus, he intends to rob her, but the characters are told otherwise.
That's great. They created an encounter that uses the spell sword.
Yep.
What do you guys think about this encounter?
Lies combined with illusionary abilities. What could go wrong?
Nothing at all, right? It's perfect.
What a bitch.
Do you know how powerful minor illusion is, you guys?
Yeah.
You can take an opening and make it not there. Just not there. That's a cantrip.
I'm going to curl into a ball and make it underneath the crate.
Yeah, and under a crate, in a rock, you can really get the surprise on the enemy. But I love that this is lies within lies, right?
Yep.
There's so much confusion here, and I think that is going to make for a hell of a surprise at the end. So, you have any thoughts on that?
That hurts my head.
Okay. Brandon, would you like to tell us about our magic item of the podcast?
The magic item of this podcast is the Potion of Mind Control. The rarity varies. When you drink a potion of mind control, you can cast a dominate spell. Spell save DC. The save DC is 14 on a specific creature. If you do so within 1 minute of drinking it, if you don't, the potion is wasted. All you had is a blueberry tasty treat. A potion of mind control produces the effect of a dominate beast, a dominate person, humanoid, or a dominate monster spell. See the table below, which is right there on the card, which you guys can see. If the target's initial saving throw fails, the effect lasts for 1d4 hours with no concentration required by you. The charmed creature has disadvantage on new saving throws to break the effect during this time.
Damn. I love this. Can we have more of these?
Wait, what determines what kind of potion it is? Is that a DM's discretion?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Random roll if you want. I mean, it's just like all the other potions. They've got kind of a range. So this is a really fun magic item. I love mind control. I love manipulating my player characters. I mean, the monsters love manipulating their enemies. I like stuff like this because it's temporary and you can give it out. And if it turns out that you thought it was too powerful or whatever, you just don't give out more. I like versatility, and I think that these things can be used to great effect by sneaking in and spiking a drink or something like that.
Yep.
So it's fun.
Yep.
You got anything to add?
I mean, mind control is definitely a very potent ability.
Yeah.
And remind me, how long does the dominate spell last?
I don't remember.
That one just said 1d4 hours.
I don't recall.
Fair enough.
We can check it really quick though.
Ooh.
Nope, I can't.
Although
Not without everyone
Although
seeing.
Brandon did point out 1d4 hours, but pour that into the trough for a circus or a farmer.
Nice. I'd like to see a pig with mind control. Like farmers go flying, jumping off a building. How do you like it? Or have them just running through a chop shop. I love it. All right, Ian, would you like to tell us about our Dungeon Master tip today?
Our Dungeon Master constant tip is actually more of a tip of what not to do. Failure to be consistent.
Yes.
Changing a similar ruling session to session makes it difficult for the players to make decisions when you, as a DM, expect a certain mechanic or concept to be used in a certain way.
Yep.
And if you keep changing it, well,
How are they gonna know?
yeah. Or just been multiple times where I've definitely seen some DMs go when a player's like, I do this. DM's like, no, you can't. Player, yes, I can. This is part of my class ability.
That's different, right?
But I have seen people like, I don't like how that works, so that's not what happens.
That's bullshit.
Yep.
Don't do that shit.
Yep.
I'm guilty of making a calling and then forgetting that's how I ruled it. And so failing to be consistent is definitely one of my failures sometimes. You don't need to agree so hard, asshole. But I try to be as fair to the players as I can.
Yep.
That's part of being a good DM. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I can't remember a time I actually strayed away from that.
Being consistent?
Yeah, did I? Have I? When I did
I don't
games for
know.
you?
I haven't played a game with you in years.
I don't remember.
Year and a half. 2. Something like that.
2. That's years. Yeah. All right. That'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip.
Okay.
Our player tip of the podcast is...
Don't be a dick!
I know you've been waiting for that. You can avoid dickitude by using the Guardian Aura of Wrath. I feel like this is counterproductive because now that we're giving power gaming tips, you really are being a bit of a dick.
Are you?
I remember the DM can do it to you too. So,
Yep.
The Spirit Guardian spell allows the caster to summon powerful spirits around themselves within 15 feet or up to 10 minutes. The spirits pretty much attack anything, but you can designate a number of creatures, such as your party, to be unaffected by this, right?
Yep.
So, dealing 3d8 per turn to any creature in the area that fails its wisdom save basically turns you into a walking holy/necrotic meat grinder.
And does it also reduce your movement speed?
It does?
I think so.
Oh, I didn't know that. It doesn't matter. Now what you need to do is, what are you going to do about those pesky creatures that want to attack and disrupt your concentration? Oh, I know you guys. Let's cast Sanctuary on ourselves and ward off attackers for up to 1 minute. Now, if a creature wants to attack us, not only must it make the wisdom saving throw first before walking in, or not only do they got to walk into the deadly aura, but now they got to make a wisdom saving throw first.
Yep.
And if you are looking to truly just wade into melee crowd of enemies with your high armor class and servant meat grinder, you can now top it off with enemies taking the dodge action on your turn. Now enemies will be turned into mincemeat as you get close to them, and should they want to attack you, they now have to pass a wisdom save and have to succeed an attack on disadvantage. Happy slaughtering, and praise be to the divine.
Yep. Movement speed by enemies is half inside the aura.
What the fuck have you been watching?
Actually, I highly have to recommend, if you haven't followed my boy D&D Shorts, you need to. The guy's effing genius when it comes to player character optimization. Follow him, go, do it. TikTok, YouTube, the guy's a genius. But yeah, so this is terrifying as a dungeon master, and I will in fact be building a meat grinding cleric for my party to go up against, so I'm super excited for that. You're welcome.
Yep.
What do you guys think about this?
It's
Using the dodge action works pretty good too, and so does casting the blur spell, which is the same thing. Yeah, it casts a spell slot, but for some strange reason, blur's not concentration. I don't know why, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Because at least also frees up your action to do other things too.
That's true. I can see that if you take the blur or the there was another one. What was it? If you can manage some multi-class and get the what is the stupid 3 illusions? Mirror images. That doesn't take concentration either. So if you can manage to arcane class tap or get that through a spell feat or something, that'll even be better. But currently, as this is written, you are a enemy tenderizer. So mincemeat.
Yeah.
How would you like to run into something like that as the DM? Your player just wades through and all the minions are just...
I'd be like, F you, my spellcaster casts Fireball.
Wisdom save?
What environmental
Nope.
things can I do to break concentration?
Yeah.
Anything that does damage.
Because there would be no save because it's an area effect.
It's an area effect, you're right.
Yours knows. Well, it's a deck save, but hey.
I imagine if the players are walking through with this going on, they're not going to be worried about looking for traps.
Oh.
No, they're not. That's when you...
There's a way to cut it short, but...
Don't do that shit too much, though.
Yeah.
If you start building encounters to go against players, they're going to hate your effing guts. So, I think that'll do it for our show today, you guys.
Yeah?
Hey, look at that. We got 1 minute to spare. All right, so before we close out today, we want to thank everyone that has joined us. If you're following us on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Check out our 1 minute DM tips. Super quick. Fall in love with them. They're great. Today, as always, we like to give away every episode. We like to give away some fat loot. Today, we are giving away our War Chanter. If you don't know, the War Chanter is a bard subclass that we designed some time ago that basically allows them to wield halberds and pikes as a banner and do powerful chants that buff and enhance the players and debuff the enemies. It goes beyond just using Bless and Bane and takes it up to a whole new level. So we're really excited. If that's something that sounds interesting that you want to check out, head on over to critacademy.com, pick it up. It's like $2, cheaper than a cup of coffee. A lot of fun, I promise. Brandon, who's our winner today?
Our winner is CBT Doncaster. Yeah.
Woo!
Didn't win, no problem. Head to www.critacademy.com and subscribe for your chance to win.
If you didn't know, if you subscribe to our newsletter on our website, we give you a free copy of our gold bestseller, Challenge Accepted, 5 skill challenges for your 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons game. If you ever wanted to just have encounters ready to go to mold and shape to fit your game that use the variety of skills that are in the game, then consider checking out. It's a 5-star product that everyone loves. I know because that's what they keep telling me. With that, please join us on our next episode. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but we're going to talk professional dungeon mastering. So let's let the hate flow, push the algorithm and our stuff to the top of the Google search list. Go, do it now. Excellent. We are going to have a special guest on from startplaying.com, or .org or shit. I should probably figure out what that is. I didn't write it down. Startplaying.games.
Professional DM. Are you talking about DMs that get paid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's very it's a very
Some of it
Controversial.
yes. So I'm excited to be pushed to the top of the algorithms by people that think, oh, that's stupid. I can play for free. Not everyone can do that. All right. With that, we'll close out our show today. If you enjoyed the show, you would like to support us, pick up our War Chanter, maybe pick up our Memorable Monsters, or just subscribe to our show or our newsletter at critacademy.com or on YouTube. Leave us a review, all that jazz. I'm your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Dan.
I'm your co-host, Brandon. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes. Thank you guys for joining us.
Bye. You're all sexy.